Hi, everyone. It's Heidi with Downtown NorCal Live, and joining me today is Dean Labadie, the owner of Strelitzia Flowers in Davis. He is joining me in an urgent way because there was a development about, well, just this morning and then preceding that about 48 hours ago that impacted his business potentially and many others. So welcome, Dean.
Hello, nice to be here.
Thanks for being here. So Dean, how long have you been in business at Strelitzia?
Just short of 50 years.
50 years.
I'm
So
not that old, I can't be.
we'll keep you in business another 50. The day before yesterday, you had a surprise visitor. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so a lieutenant from the Davis Police Department walked in and basically said there's been an order now, you have to shut down. He did give me a little bit of time to, we had a driver's out and I had to do a few things, but he said basically you have to shut down. From that, it created kind of problems in us because my wife and I sat down, figured all this out, and we notified our employees that tomorrow come in for your final paychecks, and we're putting you all on unemployment, and we have to close the business. I had just brought in $5,000 worth of flowers the day before. We had orders to take care of. My wholesale customers were waiting on things. So I really didn't know what it meant from that point. Could I still deliver to Sacramento? And the order was kind of interesting because as I went and made a bank deposit, and when I went down to the bank, there was a shop from another county delivering in Davis. And there's also people from Woodland who were able to deliver in Davis. So it was a very specific order that it was basically my shop was shut down. And yet other people were allowed to deliver in Davis, which to me didn't seem right.
So that question in your mind, you did something with that. You contacted some folks, and of course the police department was doing what, we're all doing the best we can on very little information, but what did you do with that concern?
So what I did was I started bringing up a lot of information that is out there from California Cut Flower Association and other emails I was getting. Plus, I contacted my supervisor, Jim Provenza, and started seeing if he could help me deal with this. I tried to call the health department; they were closed, so I couldn't get in touch with anybody there. I was able to send information over to the police chief in Davis, but it took me a while that evening to get all this together, and bringing in the information that said that basically I was one of the 16 essential businesses based on the federal guidelines, the state guidelines, and the posted county guidelines that were on the county website. So I brought all this together and posted it there, and it basically, their contention was that since it didn't say floriculture in the ag issue, that I wasn't included in there. But I have ag licenses. I have Department of Agriculture Market Enforcement licenses and nursery licenses, and the conditions that were going out there from the Cut Flower Commission all said that yes, we were part of that ag business. And what it is we're a diverse, flower business is a very labor intense business. And from all the flowers have to be harvested by hand, and then it's all processed from that point. So it had a lot of effect on all the food chain all the flower chain that went on with it. And my growers in South America were going, hey, we don't have any fallback. We have families, and if you can't buy from us, we're in a lot of trouble down here. So it created an urgency, and on top of it, it created just this uncertainty because they were denying stuff that I was being told was correct. And then one county was different, one city was different. All this stuff was coming up, and I had shops up in Sac that were closing. The wholesaler gave away thousands, I think probably well over $50,000 worth of flowers because he was told he had to close. Next day, he was allowed to stay open. And this is the kind of stuff that was going on over this issue. So, I thought it was important that we address it and get a ruling from them, and then do what we had to do from that point of view. Jim Provenza was excellent in helping me put the proposal together for them. And this morning, the next morning, I got a order that stayed the closing, so that we had delayed everything and our opening and changed our hours, and so we were allowed to open up that day, delivering only, on that basis until a ruling was made, and that ruling was what just recently came down today. But until that, it was a lot of uncertainty, and my shops were, worried about it all the way through it, all the way through the process.
So the reality is you have a good argument to make that you are one of those essential businesses because you have an agricultural license.
Yes.
But what this did raise with the county is the essential question about non-essential businesses. And so the county took
Yeah,
it one step further and
absolutely.
decided to allow delivery services for non-essential businesses operating in a retail setting. So, how does it feel to be the instigator of something that is really, helping everyone who's on the margins in those small businesses do something to in order to survive the next few weeks and months?
There wasn't, it's, I'm glad I could help for that basis. I'm glad we can do that because we're all in this together. We all have to find a way to survive on it. And it's really tough. My business has dropped maybe 70, 80%, and so I'm operating at a loss right now. Just to keep things going and all, and keep it still out there, and to keep that aspect. But we're in the flowers in particular, it's important that we give people the ability to send sentiment, without being there or without having to interact with it. But I'm glad that this has kind of given a focal point that it can go further and open up businesses and let them have some income too, because otherwise it's scary. It's scary how people can recover from this. And even for me, it's going to take me months or months, I would guess, to recover, where I'm paying off all the debt that I'm accumulating as of this. This is much worse than '08 and '01, all those periods in there.
Can you describe the measures that you take when you deliver flowers so that people feel safe receiving them? And also just the notion around people who might be homebound. I mean, we're all homebound now, but people who live alone in isolation, how that helps.
So we were real proactive from the beginning. Once the initial orders came down in here, I stopped all interaction at the doorstep. We and in the store itself. So on the store we were doing curbside pickup, although we didn't do much of that because we basically pushed it into delivery. So on our deliveries, we used to have somebody sign for it. We stopped that immediately. We don't interact with the person at the door at all. We drop the flowers at the door, knock on the door, and step back. And then if they open up, we wave and say, thank you very much. And, or we call them and let them know there's a delivery at the doorstep for them. And all we get is smiles. When they're getting this, it's always pleasant to receive flowers. But, we do all kinds. I guess my wife calls it cradle to grave. We do birthdays, funerals, everything all the way through the line in there. So, and people are, I was talking to a lady the other day who's, actually, I had a rental place up in the mountain that had to cancel. And she was saying this is so hard because we can't see our grandkids now, And so they have a way to, to send stuff. And so we're getting as proactive as we can. And we're working on videos right now that are for kids at home, to teach them, how to walk through making an arrangement. And we started a thing called a DIY. For like $25, we deliver a bucket of flowers and a vase and bow and explanation as to how to make a basic arrangement. And so the moms are ordering this so they can have interaction with their kids at home, and set up a little display. And then we get these pictures back of the arrangements they've made, and it's our next gen coming in. We'll pick those kids and get them doing flowers and all that. So anything related to flowers, it's kind of like a psychological plus when you get flowers, and the emotions that come out from somebody thinking about you and doing all that is just, it's overwhelming at times, and I remember years ago when I went over to, I was delivering at the convalescent hospitals in town, and these people, some of them were alone and never got anything, and were just in there. And so we started a program of delivering a corsage to their birthday. And, and we did that for years. And I had a famous one come back, and this is why I kept it up for years. He said, "Thank you very much for delivering that corsage to my wife. I pinned it on her pillow and she passed away that night, smelling the flowers."
Wow.
And it was so powerful, those kind of things. She would, gave a smile to her face, and maybe a release or something, but those are all, that's the kind of business we deal with.
It's such a great point that taking care of our mental health care needs right now
Yeah.
is also essential. Is there anything you'd like to share with state or local leaders that conveys a point on behalf of local businesses and what your needs are?
So it's very tough for them, I understand. They're under a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of negativity that's coming out towards them, I'm sure, and towards everything else related to this. If we can get one thing going, it's consistency. We want to know how we can move forward and have some consistency between city and county and government and state, so that we know that tomorrow this is what we're going to operate in, and it's not all of a sudden going to change unless there's some dramatic issue that goes on that overrides that part. But right now it's just like, what's happening tomorrow, what's going to go on. And in my case, laying off my people, whatever the stimulus is going on, if they that won't show up for weeks or months even, so what are they going to do in between that, and so it's just it's important that we were able to keep them going and work with all of them and help support them in this time, because without that they're just uncertain as to how they're going to be able to deal with everything the next day, and the rents and everything that goes on.
Well, this has been an excellent interview again with Dean Labadie, the owner of Strelitzia Flowers, in business for 50 years. I so appreciate you joining me to discuss the latest order by our public health department allowing non-essential businesses to proceed with deliveries. And so thank you, Dean, for joining me today.
Okay. Thank you very much. I hope this is a positive influence in what's going on right now.
It will be, and I will have another interview for viewers tomorrow with the hot dogger in Davis.
The hot dogger. Oh, good.